Hello, everyone. I'm Simos. I'm at SCOR. Before that, I used to work in Guy Carpenter. And today, I'm going to talk to you about how my experience with using Oasis. First, two examples from my former employer in Guy Carpenter. I hope I won't upset anything I say, Matthew, here. And then how we use at SCOR Oasis. I want to touch also a bit about the Nazare project, which I think was very, very successful. And some of the things I will repeat that Ben has said. And then some points as well that I think that are important if you're considering adopting Oasis. And then I want to just say a few things about ODS and how important it is to have one data standard. So, Oasis at SCOR, we have a multi-vendor modeling approach that was developed during the last decade, and it's very, very operational effective. And it is very important for us to have a lot of models because this gives us a better view of our catastrophe risk, right? So we are able to have a very comprehensive view of risk. We are able to also include the uncertainty, and also it helps us build confidence internally and also with our clients. And you can see that we have a lot of models, and we are adding models, evaluating. We always have a resource issue, but we are working on it. And Oasis LMF is, of course, very key for this multi-vendor modeling strategy that we have. And in two ways. First of all, we develop our own in-house CAT models. For example, 2 years ago, we developed a California wildfire model, which is run in Oasis, and we plan to develop more models in the future in Oasis. As well, we license third-party models that run in Oasis. So currently, we don't have too many models. That's why we have a small internal Oasis LMF environment. It is embedded operationally in our pricing and accumulation workflows. So all our loss platforms, including Oasis, they output event loss tables or year loss tables, which then they are converted to a common format. They enter our risk analytics tool, where we also form our view of risk, our own view of risks. And then they enter afterwards to the accumulation and pricing tools, which are very highly integrated. They communicate with each other to be all consistent before entering at the end to the internal capital model, which will help for our decision-making, the risk management decision-making. At GC, my experience with Oasis started in 2015 when I joined GC. And at the time, we had in GC a broad range of models that were produced. So there was a need to have an efficient platform to run those models. And of course, the benefit of having third-party models to host and run in a platform was very, very important. This is why, for many years, Guy Carpenter has invested a lot of money and resources in order to make Oasis and help make Oasis operationally operational. Also to integrate Oasis in all the systems, and also to port all the GCAT models to Oasis. And you can see here, for example, there are many GC models and third-party models that they enter. They are hosted and run in the NASDAQ environment, a very powerful environment from NASDAQ, which is also managed by NASDAQ. And then the output enters to the all analytics tool. But also before going there, Guy Carpenter has built a big modeling building platform where a lot of things, when you develop model, you need a lot of information about to build your own automatic VRG solutions, to build your disaggregation weights and disaggregation methodology. So there is a lot of automation that went inside to build Oasis models and integrate into all the systems. And also there is also this transformation tool that you can convert between different formats to OED. Now this hosted environment is powerful. There are many users, as Ben has mentioned before. There are more than 50 users, more than 100 analyses per week, and I'm sure it's keep increasing the number. So I think that Oasis, the Nazare project that also Ben has mentioned, was very important to make Oasis an operational proven platform. And few years ago, all the Oasis members, they come together in order to accelerate the development of the Oasis platform. And the technical steering group was formed, where I was also part of this group, and it had two directions. One, it was the Oasis Enterprise Platform. As Ben has mentioned, this environment is able to split large jobs to small jobs and run them at scale and very cost effectively. But what is also, I think, very, very important, it is that it's very easy to deploy this environment to the cloud, and it's very easy as well to deploy your models into the cloud. But what was also very interesting, I think, and made a lot of progress during that time, it was the development of Oasis, core Oasis functionalities. And again, the Oasis members, they came together. There was a long list of priorities of things that we would like to be developed. With together all the members, there was a prioritization of all these things. And this was very important because a lot of things that were not there at the time had been developed and they are now released in Oasis. As Ben has said, the two first things that was the most important was, of course, performance and stability. And I want just to add to that we have done tests at the time when we had this subgroup to compare. It's not an apples to apples comparison, but to compare with other vendor models. And we realized that the runtimes are comparable, right? So I don't know if it is much faster, but for sure it is as fast as other vendor companies. We also worked a lot on a lot of components that are very important, like disaggregation. I think convergence, sampling. I will talk about sampling a bit later on, but I believe that with together all the people, all the Oasis members, we came together, and all these components, at the moment, they are state of the art. I think in terms of how things are done now in Oasis. So a lot of. If you want to adopt Oasis, there are some questions that you need to ask yourself. Of course, what kind of environment you would like to have an internal. There are many options, internal, external, a standalone environment or a platform. And it depends, of course, on the needs. If, like in Guy Company, you have a lot of users and a lot of models, you probably want to use a cloud platform. If you also build models, it's probably important to have also an internal platform to do your runs. But I want just to stress out two additional key considerations. First of all, that it is important to have alignment relative to internal approved technologies. There have been issues in the past where we realized that the internal certified technologies that they are not matching what Oasis have. So in this case, for example, I'll just give a couple of examples. The two-factor authentication was not exactly the same as in the company the IT department wanted to have. Or the Docker Linux version that was used was not exactly the same and was not certified. This sometimes can be a showstopper, but if you have expertise internally to this Oasis technology stack, it's possible to find alternatives as well. So I think it is important to think about it when you consider adopting Oasis. And of course, your cloud server requirements. I mean, that's it. I wanted to say that because when we were working in Guy Carpenter, we did really a lot of tests to understand how fast you want to run the analysis, how much memory they use, and how much memory your system needs to have. So it depends as well on your requirements, but it requires quite a lot of work. Now, in terms of, it's true that we're using a cloud at the moment. You can easily scale up and down. So with the new Oasis platform, all this stuff are a bit easier. Sample is something that I'm quite interested in. And I think it is really important to tell you the truth, because whenever you have a simulation, you need to think about convergence. And this is not only for Oasis, it's also for other vendors that use simulation. And often there is not concrete guidance or very with details of what people are doing and how many samples you need to use. And this depends a lot how many samples you use. Depends a lot on the portfolio, of which parallel you are using, what is your output levels. So, and then you don't want to, there are two things you need to think about. First of all, you need to run with enough samples so your error is small. Small based on some kind of specific criteria that you define. For example, you want to have less than 5% error up to 200-year return period, let's say. And how many samples you need to use in order to achieve that. on the other side, you don't want to run with too many samples because then you're wasting computing resources. So this balance, you need to work it out. And I think that with the steering committee group and the work that Joe has done, we have now in Oasis able to have convergence tables there. So you can really, when you run an analysis, to see what is the standard error and then understand if your analysis have converged or not. But even before running, I think it requires still to do a lot of tests. And in Guy Carpenter, I have to say, we've done really a lot of testing about the samples that we need to use for each of our model at the time, and for different size of portfolios. So I think these 250 samples that were shown were maybe a lot, but it was adequate for the analysis that we were running. I have to say that there is still a challenge in Oasis sometimes, because if you want to run a large portfolio, that's not only in Oasis, whenever you use a platform that uses a simulation algorithm, if you use large portfolios and you want losses at a granular level, it is difficult. You need always to think about convergence, and you need to make sure that you have an environment that's able to calculate the losses at this, how many samples you need, without reaching any memory limits, for example. Finally, if you have a multi-vendor model strategy, efficiency is the key. As Vicky has said, open data standards, to have one common data standard is very, very critical. Of course, it helps sharing the data, the ability to use multiple models, and also, of course, to switch between vendors. As well, it provides a lot of opportunity to build tools around it. For example, visualization tools that could be very helpful for model evaluation, model calibration, automatic documentation, and others. And I think that having a conversion tool is very critical to its success. That's all that I have. Thank you very much.
Let's go, well, we've got a bit more time, but I think we're going to do questions at the end of all of this. So have a sit down, that's great. And we're going to move on to Paul McEwan. And while we're making sure we can get him online. So Paul, as some of you may know, is responsible for exposure management at Sompo. And we thought it would be interesting, as a little slightly different slant on what Simos has just said, because essentially Simos is one of our oldest users by duration, not by age necessarily. And Paul is actually one of the newer ones. So I just want to make sure that we have got Paul online.
Yeah.
Do I need to click anything else?
I'm here, Dickie. Don't know if you can hear us. Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Welcome, Paul. Thank you for making some time. Did you presumably heard what Simos had to say?
Yes. Yeah, I was listening in.
Good, excellent. Well, look, I've just got a couple of questions for you. As I've tried to explain, we're in a sort of slightly different position with you, because you're at least in terms of membership of Oasis, pretty new, but you're not new in terms of conversations around Oasis. You and I had conversations a number of years ago, and I just sort of wondered, it might be useful for some people in the audience, virtually or otherwise, if you were to give a little bit of an idea about what's your strategy. Has it similar to SCOR or others, or is it different? How does your strategy fit into Oasis, or Oasis, I should say, fit into your strategy? That'd be great if you give us a bit on that.
Yeah, sure, Dickie. Yeah, and thanks again for inviting us to speak here. Yeah, so as Dickie said, we're pretty new to the Oasis membership and thinking about using Oasis practically within the business. But we have been in and around the Oasis community for many years, and I remember being at Oasis conferences before and seeing people like Simos talking about how they were implementing it and being overcome with a huge amount of envy, saying, why can't we do that? Why can't we do that? Things have changed a bit now, and we feel like we're in a position to do so, and I think we'll talk about that in a bit. But first, the reasons why we've been so keen to implement Oasis in our business, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? So we rely on risk analytics and cat analytics in order to transact our business, manage our portfolio and price. Therefore, we need a greater choice of models, we need better coverage, we need better skill, and we need better transparency. And the Oasis framework and the community of vendors that and academics and other people that it introduces to us allow that in a most cost-effective way and the most efficient way. I've heard Dickie talk a bit about efficiency already, and really it's, like I said before, it's a complete no-brainer that we would want to bring this in-house. But aside from just kind of accessing the wide range of models and improving that coverage and skill, you know, there's some other elements which made it extremely attractive from a strategic angle. You know, and that's more to do with what I would call the softer side of things, right? So just the access to experts that you get through being part of the Oasis community is, you know, it can't be reproduced elsewhere in any other forum, as far as I can tell. And, you know, a colleague of mine will be on later talking about validation and work that's going on there. That's the kind of stuff that really makes a difference, as well as just that access to models, access to the network of academics and other commercial organizations like Big Ticket, for example, right? Without Oasis and without being here, you know, I probably wouldn't have heard of that, right? So it's things like that make a real big difference. Fundamentally as well, you know, collaboration. I mean, I've worked in this industry for a long time now, and I've forgotten the number of times I've kind of wanted to scream at people saying, why don't we just do this together? It will be a lot easier, whether that's validation or data cleansing or model build or just talking about issues. The only place that really happens in any meaningful way at the moment with regard to NatCat is in, you know, kind of the Oasis curated forums, to my knowledge. And you know, it's in its mission statement, right, about openness and sharing and collaboration and how that drives resilience and it makes everyone better. And I think that's completely aligned with, you know, my personal view, and now the view of Sompo International, and also of our parent Sompo Holdings. And in fact, we had Matt Donovan from Oasis come and present to some of our folks a few weeks ago, and he kind of put that tagline up for Oasis. And a bunch of people went, well, that's basically the same as Sompo Holdings tagline, right? Which is kind of building security, well-being, and happiness for a society as a whole through sharing and collaboration, right? So it's not just about the models, although that is obviously, you know, the main driver, but all of those ancillary benefits that you get from being part of the Oasis community, I think is something people don't talk about enough, and makes a huge difference. And will be the thing that drives progress in the future. And you can see some of that from Dickie's introduction already.
Thank you, Paul. I just wonder, I didn't, this is a question I've just thought of, warning to you. But I just wonder, like, you know, without giving away, obviously, any proprietary information, how do you sell something new to senior management? I'm just wondering if there's any lessons that you found that might be common with other people that would help other people sort of maybe allocate resource or make a change or get some money out there. Is there any advice you think you've found over the years?
It is a tough sell, right? So the reason we've been in and around but not part of for many years is because I don't think I was particularly successful, to be honest. So we got everybody on board. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. Yeah, more models. We need more models. We need better coverage. We need better skill. We need to understand them better. It's like, yeah, they're great. Go and do it. Okay, we're going to need, you know, $500,000, 250K, whatever to get started. Oh, you didn't say that. And there's always kind of tough competing priorities, right? And I think the thing that has made the difference for us is that now for a company like Sompo International, which doesn't, you know, which I'll be honest, it doesn't do IT projects very well. Now there's a kind of path of least resistance via the RMS implementation, and that's now the thing that has kind of got people excited and got people to say yes, put your foot down and go, because it just overcomes a number of obstacles that we had before that meant it was very difficult for us to execute on. And again, kind of listening to Simos's talk, filled with envy a few years ago, but also going, you know, who am I going to speak to in our organization about, you know, Docker and Linux compatibility and single sign-on, right? That's just not who we are. But that's kind of all gone away now via that RMS implementation for us.
Maybe last question. In terms of that the RMS, your personal decision, that corporately, your personal decision, or however you want to phrase it, the RMS was the right way to go for acquisition of Oasis and Oasis-based models. I mean, just a little bit about your decision making around that, I think might be useful.
Yeah, of course. So like I say, I mean, we knew it was something we wanted to do, but we found out that implementing it operationally in the business was just initial conversations were very difficult to have because there are always competing priorities. So when we were speaking with RMS over the last 2-3 years, we made it clear to them that in their new platform, the Intelligent Risk Platform, this would be something which is aligned heavily with our strategic vision, and it was a kind of key consideration in our decision to choose them. So why? What does it do? So it overcomes a whole bunch of kind of operational issues. So number one, cost, right? So cost of standing up an environment or building an environment. Number two, training of analysts. So training of, and cat analysts, in my experience, are kind of typically quite change averse. They like their process and they like their routine. Not all of them, but typically. And so now all of a sudden we don't have to retrain, right? So Oasis models appear within the RMS framework just as an RMS model would appear, and you can execute them in the same way. The API workflows are exactly the same. The output looks exactly the same. The financial engine can be exactly the same. So the workflows are the same. And RMS have had a go at data conversion. It's in its early stages, so ODS to EDM format. But given their kind of proven track record of implementing the Oasis framework itself, I firmly believe that will be kind of in a good place in the relatively near future. Right? It's already in a fairly decent place. It will be probably in a place where you can use that in a business. And data conversion was always a big headache, right? How on earth do you go about converting data between different formats? Again, it's a huge investment. And that's kind of gone away as well. I mean, we don't abdicate responsibility completely for all of these things. You still have to be involved. You still have to tweak it. You still have to check it. You still have to validate it. There are going to be idiosyncrasies, but it gives you a really strong baseline to work from that suddenly makes that proposition a whole lot more viable.